he hit like a max damage on a unit, and he killed that. So the ability to right-click heroes, pretty sweet, eh? So even though you're getting pushed, remember that he can't cover all bases. Like, if human really wants to push you, he can only get so many units. In this case, he went rifles, which means he doesn't have the dual sanctum. In fact, he doesn't even have a sanctum. Now, I have to say that's a bad choice on Todd's part to not get a sanctum, but his whole strategy was get rifles as anti-dryad, tower rush. Notice he only made 3 footmen. Maybe he had 4 and 1 died to creeps or something, but this whole strategy that Todd has is quickly make anti-dryad and then tower rush. Works pretty well. So he kills a rifle and then suddenly gets surrounded. Oops. And so while he will kill, a couple riflemen for a DH, that's all he gets. So kills 2 riflemen, loses a DH, whatever. This isn't something you can really apply to every game. It did actually, I think, end up working in Deadman's favor. Both in EXP it was the same, and in total unit cost, Deadman's favor. 170 gold versus 410. Winner. Or sorry, 210 versus 410. Alright. Anyways, point is, Deadman's fine. Also, by doing this build, the 5 archers, 2 dryads rush to bears, he allowed himself to have Mouser training when Todd comes for round 2. Now, he lost his initial push, but he's going to revive his Archmage, and he just did. And he's going to try again with even more rifles, with some mercenaries, and even better towers, or something. Deadman, however, will be like, oh look, I have bears versus riflemen. You're screwed. Now, I do still have to maintain that I think this is a bad strategy on Todd's part, because it's not very foresighted. But, I mean, if you really think about it, the initial push really should have worked. I mean, what are Kaz going to do when you're against a bunch of magic immune and piercing units? I mean, they're obviously not going to deal any damage output. Slow's not going to be useful against Abolish. Well, it actually kind of will be. Priest Steel, I think, would be useful. However, when you think about it, an Arcane Sanctum plus a Priest takes a lot of time. Buying a healing potion is probably about the same amount of healing, and takes a lot less time. So while Todd had a very good initial strategy, he executed it poorly. But at the same time, Deadman did the right counter in saying, okay, you don't have consistent healing. Even if you pull back your hero, you don't have a priest. Thus, I can right-click your Archmage, and even if you get him back, you've got to keep him back. Because I have a DH with boots, and you can't slow him. You're going to get raped. You will. You will. You will get raped. Just kind of letting you know. I don't know why I stressed that point so hard, but yeah. Now, Todd tries to put up a Sanctum, and oops, I can't. Pulls in the Militia right away, though. Pretty good, but level 3 DH is like, oh, sup. He has Master on his bears, and Todd has 50 food. Okay, well, I killed a couple Militia. Okay, now I'm gonna run. Okay, use some staffs. He missed the staff from the Dryad, but, yeah, whatever. Grabs an Orb, which aids in the hero focus. I've had a couple games where I'm getting pushed and I'm essentially losing, but if I keep my Moonos and Lores up and I keep making units, I can just slowly push his heroes down, and if I ever get enough HP on both my heroes and enough mana to abolish slow a couple times, I can show up and right-click the hell out of your Archmage and force a TP. If you're out of my base and TPing, my units are going to have full HP, I'm going to have like 4 bears, you're going to be back to square one and not able to push my base. The whole reason pushes work well is the ability to keep the unit counts down, because all your units are ranged, and chances are you have slow, you can keep picking off those bears and not let them get into big numbers. However, typically, unless your army is big, you don't have a counter to bears in a global sense. Now, you notice that Riflemen do actually do pretty well because they have a lot of damage output. Notice he got 1 upgrade on them, and they do pretty good damage. I mean, it's 19 to 28, so they're doing 23.5 DPS, or damage per shot, sorry. DPS, ha ha ha. Get it? Damage per shot, the initials DPS. I'm funny. Anyways. Notice Deadman got Wellspring, or he's starting it anyway, and he's going to 50 food and whatnot. Really the whole point, like, I think Deadman did get lucky on those Archmage snipes, but overall, like, the way to stop any kind of a push like that, where you're like, wow, I have 2 Dryads, you cannot win the battle. You can't stand there and fight him, because he's going to use frost arrows on your DH, and he will get slowed a lot. And yeah, okay, you won't lose any mana, so you can heal on Moonos pretty easily. But Riflemen have 500 hit points. When your DH is slowed, your damage per second is really not that high on Riflemen. As I said, they have 500 hit points. Dryads do like 18 piercing damage. It's really not very good. Now, yes, they have an extra 4 damage per second with slow poison, but that only lasts so long, and it's only so much damage. You can only have so many. As you saw, when the push started, he had 2 Dryads, and that's all he could make. He wasn't able to make, 7 Dryads and say, okay, push me now. He had very little damage output, and usually most humans will bring priests with them. It's still beyond me why Todd didn't bring, an Arcane Segment for priests. I really don't get that, but, I mean, what am I trying to say? Priest only heals so much, and a Demon Hunter can do a lot of damage than a Naga, and, Frost Arrow's, Forked Lightning Mana Brand can do a lot of damage as well, and you can out-damage the regen of a Priest. However, most human pushes work on the fact that you have a Priest and a healing potion, so if you don't quick kill the Archmage, it's going to be back to full soon, and if you really do get hectic, you can always use a heal potion, which is why humans can actually push pretty well sometimes. And yeah, so I mean, yeah, he forgot if he got Priest, I don't really know how that worked fine, but that's how you stop a push, is you right-click the hell out of the Archmage, and you make it work. I mean, then comes the whole cheese of, LOL, I'm chainslowing your rifleman and it's dying. And yeah, they take a lot of damage when you've got a level 4 here with an orb hitting it, fine. But I mean, in general, what you want to do as Elf in this matchup is, I think Deadman's build is very good, where you get the 2 Dryads just as enough units to keep him from pushing you easily. You just get it, because Dryads are good, but if they're going rifles like Todd did, they're not good enough. If they go mortars, you can go Dryads, because this is what you do. If they go mortar caster, you can mass Dryads. Here's why. You run into the back of the lines, you right-click a mortar, move, right-click a mortar, move, right-click a mortar, move, and they'll die. And when a mortar shoots, it has to fly through the air, plus they have minimum range. If you're moving, you're not going to take full damage in any one of your Dryads. The casters aren't doing any damage to them, they're hitting your heroes, big deal. And plus, if they really do have caster mortar, you'll have enough mana with these mass Dryads to keep the spelling slow, which will keep your heroes useful. And so, all you're doing is just right-clicking the mortars in sequence, killing them, and then saying, oh look, it's casters versus Dryads, I wonder how this is going to end up. And you kill all the casters. And so, by Todd going mass rifles, it's like, oh crap, I can't go Dryads. Okay, well I'm rushing the hell out of bears. And because you're mass gun rifles, you won't be able to dual sanctum, which means it's going to be hard for you to get a lot of casters up. And the thing is, the best counter to bears is swords, but in any situation, you need priests as well, and you need breakers as well. Without a front line of breakers, and they are pretty much the best tank against bears you can get, and the best anti-hero you can get, you need the dual sanctum to get anti-bear in general. I mean, if you mass Sorks, they can run over you with Dryads and whatnot. If you mass breakers, just breakers, then you can just mass bears, and it really doesn't matter. But slowed bears do not beat breakers. And if you have rifles and mortars, the Dryads can't really do that much to you either, because whilst I can run around focusing mortars down, but your rifles have very good DPS against Dryads. Dryads have 0 base armor, they only have 400 hit points, and rifles innately do like 21 average damage, which means they're doing like 32 average damage.